It is my honor to introduce Ms. Sharon Stokes Perry. She's a native Chicagoan from the South Side. Joined the United States Marine Corps in 1985 and was honorably discharged and medically retired after serving 10 years. During her tenure, she attended basic training at Parris Island, South Carolina, military occupational specialist training at Camp Johnson, North Carolina, and was permanently stationed at Camp Pendleton, California, Camp Smith, Hawaii, and the Military Interest Processing Station located in Des Plaines, Illinois, as a member of the 2nd Battalion, 24th Marines. She held temporary assignments in recruiting, supply, and overseas training. Her medals and awards include Joint Service Achievement, 3 Good Conduct, 1 Meritorious Mass, numerous letters of appreciation, and a Sharpshooter Marksmanship Badge. So you better give her attention when she gets up here. She is the president of Montford Point Marine Association, chapter number 2, and is the former treasurer. The association is a veterans organization whose founding members were part of the first segregated unit of Marines during World War II. Their organization and bravery led the charge in the desegregation of the United States Marine Corps. The association's mission is to assist veterans and continue service to the community. She has a deep personal commitment to providing excellent service to all. She holds a Master's of Science in Education from Chicago State University and a Bachelor of Science degree in Organizational Behavior from Northwestern University. Ms. Perry.
Thank you so much, Beverly, for that kind introduction. First and foremost, we would like to thank the commissioners of the Water Reclamation District. Personally, I would like to thank Regina Berry for inviting us here on this grand Diversity Day. In addition, I don't have any members in the crowd, but I do have our families of our members who are always here to support us. The Thrasher family and the Reynolds family, thank you so much for being here to support us, because we know most of the things that we attempt to do cannot be done. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And also with the highest and deepest pleasure to really thank the men of the hour, because they are the reason for my season. Original Montford Pointer, Mr. James A. Reynolds Jr. And original Montford Pointer, Mr. Frank Thrasher. The great thing about having these two gentlemen with us here tonight is that you are witnessing 2 of 17 original Montford Pointers in our Chicago chapter. Right. And we gratefully had the baby here, Mr. Reynolds, 92. We are blessed to have one of our elders here, Mr. Thrasher, 98. Wow. One of our elders, because we also have he's 98, but he'll be 99 in October, so Mr. Thrasher just turned 98 this year, so y'all give him a round of applause. You heard a little bit of my bio. My name is Sharon Stokes Perry, and I am the current president of the Chicago chapter of the Montford Point Marine Association. And this association is near and dear to me. I kind of heard you reminisce talking about Mr. Razul, and you know, it touched me. It touched me because his impact must have been totally profound to all who knew him, because such kind words were said about him now that he's not here. And I think that's how you kind of measure the worth of an individual, not what you say when they are around, but what you say when they're not around. So I think the officer gave him a hoorah. I'm gonna give him a hoorah. That's one of the biggest things in the Marine Corps you can give a person. That means you hear, understand, agree, and it can mean anything else in between. We get excited about that word, and I'm excited to pass that hoorah on to Mr. Razul, and hope that he's up there with St. Peter, where those pearly gates are guarded by U.S. Marines. So. Now back to my story. I'm gonna give you a little history on the Montford Point Marine Association in general. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1941 passed Executive Order 8802, and what it did was encourage fair employment practices, not only in the U.S. militaries, but in the communities where traditionally people of color weren't able to receive jobs. So what it did was it opened up the military to individuals of color as a career opportunity. So the Navy, the Army, all of them complied, and they let African Americans join their service. However, the Marine Corps was the last holdout, because we had General Holcomb in the Marine Corps that said, I would rather have 5,000 whites than 20,000 blacks in my Marine Corps. And if you know anything about Marines, we are very possessive about our Marine Corps, because it belongs to each and every one of us, because each and every one of us have earned the right to wear that Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. And we get possessive about it. It belongs to us. It's something that is personal. So, despite General Holcomb's thought, the president thought better. And the Marine Corps was finally integrated on June 1st, 1942. And Mr. Howard Perry, well, I'm gonna give you a little history. Mr. Howard Perry was the first person to show up at a segregated boot camp in North Carolina known as Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Now, this is the other piece of the puzzle. Alfred Masters was also the first Marine to enlist in the Marine Corps. First African American to enlist in the Marine Corps. He enlisted at 12:01 a.m. June 1st in Oklahoma. So there's always a big debate of who was the first African American Marine to, first African American to join the Marine Corps. There are some who will say it's Alfred Masters because he joined at 12:01, but in our legacy and our history is Howard Perry because he arrived at the actual duty station June 1st. So no history for you to put in your pocket. But as the story goes, in 1942, when Mr. Perry, along with hundreds of other African Americans who had to serve at this segregated boot camp. Anybody that knows anything about Marines know that we train in two places. We have the Marines who train in San Diego, California. I know it's some of y'all out there. We consider them our Hollywood Marines. Where y'all? Where you at? All right, I see some Hollywood Marines out there. And then, as I like to say, we have the real Marines who train at Parris Island, South Carolina. So those are the two training periods or points for Marines. Well, when this new breed of Marine, the African American Marine, joined our illustrious Corps, they were sent to a segregated boot camp at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and had to build their own boot camp because there was nothing there but a forest. So with equipment, they had to fight the bears, they had to fight the snakes, they had to fight the mosquitoes that was big enough to carry them away. And finally, Camp Montford Point was born. And some 20,000 African American men served at that segregated boot camp from 1942 to 1949. So when you hear me say original Montford Point Marines, I'm talking about those individuals who served at Camp Lejeune from 1942 to 1949. And they are my heroes. As I say, the reason, if it was not for their tenacity, for their courage, for their desire to serve their country, even when they could not be treated as humans in their own country, they deserve a big round of applause and a big And the desegregation of Montford Point and its closure came about in 1948 when President Harriet Tubman sent Executive Order 9981. And that was the order that desegregated the military once and for all. So these great gentlemen, some who have served at Iwo Jima, some who have served at Itaniwa, Guam, the Marshall Islands, Nagasaki, Okinawa, Hawaii, California, and all climes and places as Marines do. They broke every record, and those records still stand in the Marine Corps for marksmanship and combat readiness. Those records still stand today, folks, from 1942 to 49. So as the end of the war closed and individuals went back home, as us Marines and soldiers and sailors and airmen do, once our tours are over, we come back home. So what was happening? In 1948, the desegregation of the military predates the Civil Rights Movement in America. So the Civil Rights Act in 1964, these gentlemen were dealing with social issues in a very hostile environment with very hostile individuals, and the saddest part, with guns. Not a good mix for racial tension. So I joined this association. And I joined this association because, one, I was ashamed that I was ignorant to their existence. That was the one thing. I was really ashamed because if you saw from my bio, I joined the Marine Corps in 1985, and I went to school at Camp Montford Point where they served, and there was no mention of them. Nothing. Not a blip, not a bloop, not nothing. And I was fascinated by the history because by the time I got there in 1985, they had renamed Camp Montford Point to Camp Johnson after one of their most illustrious drill instructors, Gilbert Hashmark Johnson. And they renamed that camp in 1974. So there was no mention of what happened prior to renaming that camp. And it still remains the only African American camp named after an African American in the Marine Corps. So, yeah, wow. Long time. Long time coming, still long time coming. So I was ashamed that I knew nothing of the history. I we have a center on 7011 South Vincennes, and the membership into this organization is open to all veterans of all branches of all service. And I was really, really humbled and touched that you had individuals in all branches who cared about the Montford Point Marines. Now, this is where I get on my high horse and say, everybody, and when I say everybody, don't heard of the Tuskegee Airmen. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, nobody or not too many people know about the Montford Point Marines, and they are their equivalents in service. They are. The Tuskegee Airmen, first black aviators in the Army Air Corps at the time, and the Montford Point Marines, first African Americans to ever wear an Eagle Globe and Anchor, and it wasn't easy getting it. So when you see a Marine with the EGA, hey, we the cats meow. Everything. My son likes to say we all that. Okay? So what comes to mind is when I joined this organization, I wanted to serve. I'm a type of individuals, when I come to organizations, I don't come for membership badges. I don't come for to dine and wine and all that. I come to work. So when I came to this organization, I came to work, and the president, who was a Montford Point Marine, and what is kind of amusing, but not so amusing all the time, I tell them all the time, is that when they were in the service, they didn't see anybody that looked like me in a uniform. So they really did not know how to talk to me. And I was there, I was like, I'm fired up, I am so happy to be here. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And the president took me under his wing, and he said, you're gonna be the next president of this organization. And from that moment on, he taught me everything that was Montford Point. I know where all the bones buried, just in case y'all don't know. Everything. And it's been a pleasure to serve as the president of the Chicago chapter for the last 9 years. I've been president for 9 years. I know that's a long time, and every day get longer, but still work to. And as long as there's work to be done, I'll stay in place. But I'm ready to find that one person that has as much joy about the association so that I can pass down the gavel to some younger blood, hopefully. That's my dream. Y'all hear me? That's my dream, guys. But until then, I'm going to continue to work for this organization. It is a worthwhile organization. We're a 501c3 entity. What we have done is we've created programs for our veterans and for our community. We hosted Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and dance fitness classes, and our 4 main projects that we work on every year is we deliver Christmas baskets to sick and shut-in veterans who otherwise may not have a meal. At Christmas time, we partner with the Department of Human Services to provide toys and food to needy families. When it's back to school time, we have a back to school program and project where we ensure that children have book bags and paper and pencils and all those things that can impede learning if they don't have the proper tools to do the job. In addition, we have a scholarship program that we started back in 1994, and we're proud to say that we've given almost $50,000 away in scholarships in the name of the Montford Point Marine. Lastly, we have a VA bingo program where we take direct services to the Jesse Brown Hospital and entertain those veterans who may or may not have family, but are just lonely because they're in the hospital. And we share a day of celebration and fun for them to win prizes and money and all types of good donations that we get at our VA bingo program. So when you hear about these programs and projects, please donate to them. One of the best things about my organization is that, you know, you never know how much. It's almost like a dysfunctional relationship. But you never know how much you love something until you're on the verge of losing it. And last year, if anybody was reading the paper, we had a lot of press that we were going to lose our home, our beloved home, where our only desire is to preserve the legacy of the first African American Marines and to educate the public about them. And I hope I'm doing that this evening. But also, this is a place of camaraderie for us. It is the place where secrets are told and secrets are kept. It is the place where some of you veterans come and you feel some type of way, but you don't know why you feel that way, and you talk to another veteran and we're able to pull you off the ledge. I think that's one of the most important services that we provide, is a place for veterans to come and talk to their own and be taken care of by their own. I told you I've been the president for 9 years, but I've been a member for 13 years, and I will never share with you some of the secrets that have been shared with me, even though your wife may not know, your husband may not know, your children may not know, nobody else knows, but we know. We are watchful of you, and we are caretaking of you, and we become your other family. And that's what the Montford Point Marine Association is. It's not just a nonprofit that helps people. It's a family. And I love my family. I love the Montford Point Marine Association. And once again, I thank you, Ms. Berry, for allowing us to be here to share with you our organization that we love so much. These gentlemen have suffered some of the hardest of times. I talk to my son and I say, you know what? You are unappreciative sometimes. Do you know people died for you to have the right to vote? Do you know people have suffered so that you can have an iPad at the University of Illinois? Just saying. And it is important that we pass on these stories. African Americans have a heritage of storytelling, because it's the only way that we preserve our own legacies is through stories. And I always believe in 6 degrees of separation, and I believe if everyone in this room goes out and tells 6 other people about the Montford Point Marines, when you hear about us again in the newspaper, donate. Just donate. Just do it. You say you gotta give up the Starbucks coffee for a day. Just do it. And I know it's hard to give up Starbucks. Starbuckian. However, just give it up and donate. Last and not least, once again, I want to pay homage to the gentlemen that are the reason for my season. I know that if they did a bad job, I could have never served in the Marine Corps had they done a bad job, because the Marine Corps didn't have a place for people of color. They really didn't have a place for women. Right. And I've been able to raise my family. I've been able to meet some phenomenal individuals through my service in the Marine Corps. And I want to let you guys know that they are, if you see those nice big old silver dollars around their neck, those are Congressional Gold Medals. Wow. They were recipients. And the Congressional Gold Medal is the highest honor that can be bestowed upon a civilian by a United States Congress. Everybody that knows about the Tuskegee Airmen know that they received their gold medal in 2007. And our organization lobbied so that the Montford Point Marines, we thought their story was important. We thought their history and their contributions were important. So our national organization, we lobbied Congress without fail for about 20 years. It took us about 20 years to get there, but we don't give up. And they were awarded that medal June 26th at the Capitol Building in Washington, D.C. in 2012. So it was a very great accomplishment. In 2013, there is a naval vessel known as a military landing platform. Only 3 of its kind. It's a very cool vessel. This vessel is able to dock in the middle of the ocean and airplanes can land on it. This vessel can pull up to any port and become an instant loading and unloading vessel for equipment and personnel. So the Navy created 3 of these monstrous vessels, and the first one was named after Montford Point Marine. So lastly, there is a monument at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, in their honor. This monument houses 20,000 stars as a representation of those 20,000 brave souls who serve in the Marine Corps as the first African-American Marines. And if you're ever in the neighborhood, just go by and see it. It's outside the gate, so they'll let you see it. You know, they don't really take too kind of people just coming on their military bases. So we made sure it was accessible, so it's outside of the actual military base so that you can come and see it. And if it was not for the enterprising souls who in 1965, they wanted something to call their own. And 400 of these gentlemen got together in Philadelphia and created the Montford Point Marine Association. And if you see Chicago Chapter 2, that means we are the 2nd chapter in this association since its inception. Philadelphia is flagship 1 and Chicago is flagship 2. We've been in the business of helping our veterans since 1966. So thank you so much for your time. Once again, thank the commissioners, the Water Reclamation District, all you fantastic people for listening to me this evening. God bless you all. God bless the United States of America.
I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you, because some of y'all been with me all month long. And I know it was a long month, it was tiring, but we had a good time. And if you like me, you learned some things during the month of February. It was great. I want to thank all the department heads. Catherine O'Connor, I think you didn't miss one, did you? She was here all the while. Thank you so very much. But most of all, I want to say that I'm so grateful, because were it not for all of you out there, we would be standing up here talking to an empty room. And that's not something that I would have liked. Black history is very important to me. It is very dear to my heart. But thank y'all so very much. We're going to do these presentations. We're going to do some photos.
Yes, ma'am.
Some photos and everything. Wait a minute. Where y'all leave me up here? Come on, let's do these presentations and give the awards out. They said I was going to do it, but y'all going to do it.
Okay, on behalf of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, our Board of Commissioners, every employee, we want to thank you so much for being here. We want to thank you for your service. We want to thank you for the honor that you have given to us when we serve and debunking all stereotypes. We appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts. So we want to make sure that we give you a resolution that says your name from this district in acknowledgement of all that you have done. So we're going to give them to you one by one, and we're going to call your name, but we're going to bring it to you so you don't have to come. All right? Thank you.
That is
hilarious. Okay, so the first one will go to the individual who stood up here and gave us all of the information. Of course, that would be Sharon Stokes Perry. The next one will go to Sergeant Frank Thrasher. Thank you so much for your service. Okay, and then our last award and resolution goes to Staff Sergeant James Reynolds Jr. Once again, we thank you so much for your service, for your honor, for your integrity. This has been our pleasure. Okay, lastly, before we depart, I want to make sure that I acknowledge the African American History Committee. So in addition to Allison, who you've seen, as well as Beverly Sanders, can I get the diversity staff to come in? Charles, there you are. Charles, can you come on up here, please? I know Jerry is not going to come, but nonetheless, Jerry Kimbrough Gray.
Down here.
Right up here.
Down here.
Yes. Sheila Porter. And of course, you have the members of the diversity team, Denise Hardney, Chase Cartney, Chase. PJ Spencer, Fred Fortier, Melissa Torres, Rich Martinez, who did our opening grace, wherever he may be. Now, for those of you who enjoyed the food so much, you have Charles to thank. He oversees that for us every year to ensure that that food gets here and that it is hot. Oh, there's Rich.
Thanks, Charles. It was good.
And then, of course, you've met our vice president, who cracks the whip every year, who gets on us, who says we're too slow and we start too late, but who sticks with us anyhow. So it is our pleasure to bring this forth every year for you. We thank you all so very much for coming out every single year. And of course, our house band. And last but not least, Brian Perkovich, can you come up, please?
He's the chief one.
There you go, Brian. Very cool. He's responsible for those district dollars, and he makes sure he watches them well.
Well, thank you again for coming tonight. This is a very appropriate way to close this month. And thank you. We'll see you again next year. Thanks to the Vice President. Thanks to the committee. Thanks to all our staff. Thanks to everyone for being here. It's been a wonderful event. Thank you.